Welcome back to World Crisis Radio, and referring you especially to Tarpley.net. Tarpley.net will see a write-up of December 23rd, 2010, the 700th anniversary of December 23rd, 1310, the arrival of the Emperor Henry of Luxembourg in Milan, Italy, and the beginning of an identifiable, continuous process leading to the first prototype of the modern state, approximately 80 to 90 years later, but nevertheless a continuum that we can see and understand. And present at the creation is Dante Alighieri, probably the greatest human individual of the second millennium A.D., that is from 1000 to 2000. Dante seems to be the champion, the creator of the first modern language, the creator of the idea of a modern language in general, and giving a big push to the creation of the modern state, something that he would not see, that would come 2 to 3 generations later. So, as a result of Henry VII, celebrated, propagandized, advocated, and publicized by Dante, we get the ouster of the wretched Torriani leadership in Milan, the coming of Matteo Visconti, and the beginning of the Visconti rule in Milan, which very soon becomes a powerful Milanese state, and by the end of the 1300s, it's essentially all of northern Italy except for Venice and except for Florence, and Florence is about to fall into the Visconti state when, unfortunately, Gian Galeazzo Visconti dies under very mysterious circumstances in September 1402. So that was the most realistic attempt to unite northern and central Italy at least, and perhaps more, perhaps the entire peninsula under one government. And that was the absolute historical imperative, as both Dante, Petrarch, and Machiavelli all recognized. If you don't have a unified national state, you will become the plaything of, in this case, France and Spain. Whatever larger, more powerful oligarchical congeries come around, they're going to be coming after you. So that's the problem. And Dante doesn't quite see it in those terms, but he nevertheless does set into motion the process leading towards the solution. What is so special about Gian Galeazzo Visconti? Well, let's take 3 things. It's the modern state, first of all, because it starts as an economic recovery program favoring the middle class at the expense of bankers. And the key word here is debt relief. When Gian Galeazzo Visconti takes over Milan about 1385 from one of his relatives who had not been doing such a good job, he institutes debt relief. He basically says all tax arrears are canceled. If you owe the IRS money, we're going to wipe that off the books, and you start with a clean slate. It's a kind of a debt jubilee, and this is then extended into other places as he takes them in, absorbs them, conquers them in some cases, into the Milanese state. So debt relief and an economic program that offers concrete, immediate benefits, populist benefits to the middle class, not the bankers. Second point is infrastructure. If you've ever been to Milan, you see this huge Gothic cathedral, the most ambitious late Gothic cathedral anywhere in Europe. In order to move all of those materials and for other purposes of general economic development, Gian Galeazzo Visconti built and perfected a system of canals in the Milan area. Some of this is covered over now. Some of it's more visible in various places on the periphery of Milan, but it's a canal system that goes between the various rivers, in particular down to the Po, and it's one of the most ambitious canal systems anywhere in the world at that time. That helps him to build the Milan Cathedral. It also helps him to build the charter house of Pavia, the Carthusian monastery a few miles south of Milan, between Milan and Pavia. So these are huge artistic achievements, but above all, that's the everyday economic life of this thriving place. Milan, traditionally the richest city in Western Europe, and the only competition for the richest city in Europe as a whole was generally Constantinople. But otherwise, it was Milan. So debt relief, infrastructure. Third point, modern technology, the most advanced metallurgy in Europe and probably in the world. The Milanese metal workers, and this at that time meant swords. It meant arms and armor. It meant suits of armor of the highest quality, the best approach to steel manufacturing, metalworking, metallurgy. That was Milan. During the 100 Years' War from the 1330s to the 1450s, both sides, the British, the English, and the French, were armed by the Milanese arms manufacturers. And this was the basis of, it reflects the advanced regional economy that they had. So those three, debt relief, infrastructure, and advanced technology, in particular in metalworking. Now, this is all stuff that becomes obvious in the 1370s, 1380s, 1390s in particular. Unfortunately, Henry VII was not able to prevail against his enemies. The Florentines organized a league against him. He then proceeded to besiege Florence. You can see this is the episode in Dante's Divine Comedy in the Inferno at the walls of the city of Dis. When we get the biggest rebellion by the demons, we get the three Furies, Alecto, Tisiphone, and Megara coming out with the severed head of the Gorgon Medusa to try to turn Dante into stone. But they are defeated by the arrival of an angel from heaven who quells the revolt of these demonic forces. That is the figuring in the Divine Comedy of the Black Guelph leadership of the city of Florence, those Black Guelphs of the Donati family, who are the center of the resistance to the Emperor Henry VII, and they are, of course, the people who had exiled Dante and sentenced him to death several times over if he was ever caught on their territory. Unfortunately, then, in September 1313, Henry VII died mysteriously, very conveniently, and most likely poisoned by his political adversaries. Who would those be? Well, some combination of the Venetians, the forces in the Vatican around the Gascon Pope Clement V, puppet of the King of France, again operating out of Avignon in southern France, and the Florentine Black Guelphs themselves. Dante himself, prima facie case, died after a visit to Venice in 1321. He was there as the diplomatic representative of an enemy of the Venetians, Guido Novello da Polenta of Rimini and Ravenna. So he died as a result of actions by the Venetians. So shorthand for that is the Venetians killed Dante, the greatest man of the millennium. So unfortunately, it didn't work in the terms that they immediately defined it, but then it worked in an overwhelming fashion, giving birth or starting the process, leading to the prototype of the modern state. Look at these world historical geniuses. Look at the imbeciles and dwarves who are on the other side, and it's clear where you want to line up in historical terms. Back in a minute.